Hey, this is David Owen.
And this is Marian Caligoan.
And this is You Show Me Yours, a podcast where a married couple talks about the movies and television that they loved before the first date. And this time I was made to watch Impromptu.
Yes, it's the 1991 movie that gave 14-year-old me really inappropriate ideas about what love was supposed to look like. But I assumed that this was all on the up and up because it was on Masterpiece Theater in the U.S. They don't lie. There's nothing fictional there. It's all 100% true.
Yep.
It was on PBS, so, you know. Yes, this is a... I don't know, not a rom-com, it's a rom-dram, I guess. And also a sort of kind of biopic about Frederick Chopin and George Sand? I don't know. The accents in here I can't tell if they're saying George Sand or George Sand or, you know, what. Anyway, yeah. A French a writer and a musician had an affair in like the 1830s. Basically, this is like a sex comedy, except in, and I keep wanting to say the Victorian era, but it's not the Victorian era because they were in France. I don't know what the similar name is, but like the 1830s. People hanging out at a mansion and swapping spouses. And, well, some people swap spouses and an affair develops. And there are duels. There are several duels.
Sweet. And
a romance develops that... spoiler, we are led to think is like one for the ages, but it wasn't really one for the ages because they didn't stay together that long. Sorry. Womp womp. Anyway.
Cool.
Yeah. So for whatever reason, so like I said, this was released, it was shown on Masterpiece Theater on PBS in 91-ish when it came out. And my parents, for whatever reason, taped it, and the VHS tape was just sitting around. And we were not in the habit of renting movies that often, or we certainly didn't buy them. So there weren't many things around to watch. And I guess I was bored one day and watched it and was like, ooh, who's this guy? A Chopin. He's kind of dreamy. And I watched it again and again and again and again. So I thought Hugh Grant was cute before anybody else knew about Four Weddings and a Funeral. Thank you very much. One of several 90s heartthrobs that I knew about before everybody else did, mostly because of Sisters was the other thing. George Clooney and Paul Rudd were on there, and I was like, yes, please. And then ER and Clueless came out, and everyone else discovered them, and I was like...
It's been there, done that.
Yeah. You never even heard of them, but I bet you're not a real fan. I was on the Hugh Grant train early. And what's funny is... everybody thinks of Hugh Grant as, you know, this awkward, foppish, very delicate character. And this is where it started. Like Four Weddings and a Funeral, delicate, foppish, awkward. Notting Hill, delicate, foppish, awkward. Like, now that he's much older, he's changed and he's sort of leaning into his villain era. But at the time, this is exactly what he did. You kind of got the sense that if you shook him too hard, he would break.
Yeah,
that was his trademark. But this has a lot of other actors in it that are not quite as recognizable now, except for Mandy Patinkin, who's in a bunch of things, and Julian Sand, R.I.P. But also Judy Davis as George Sand, and Bernadette Peters, who I think is no longer with us. I can't remember.
Yeah, it's hard to keep track.
A lot of these are theater actors, and the director is James Lupine, I think, who I believe is a theater actor. Theater director, sorry. He directed the performance of Into the Woods that also got put on PBS, which in my mind is far superior to the movie version, which came out like 10 years ago. He also directed that too.
It's throwing shade.
Yeah.
This is now the podcast where we throw shade on stuff.
Like, where I, as a person who has only seen those two versions of Into the Woods, is gonna start casting judgment and talking shit about things that I know nothing about. Everyone always wants a hot take from an uninformed person. Well, that's me.
What's your opinion on that Cats movie from a couple of years ago? Nobody's given their hot take on that in a while.
No.
Inferior to the Broadway cast, you think?
Well, since I haven't seen either the show or the movie, I am absolutely qualified to give an opinion. They both suck.
That was always the thing. Like, the ads for Cats made Cats look so cool. Like, I don't know what it was like around you when you were growing up, but Cats, when it was really big, would come around. They had the touring show.
Yeah.
The Greensboro Coliseum Annex.
Well, and
Cats,
they had
see the mystery.
And they were big on the song Memory.
Yeah, and they had like this like rising, floating like sewer manhole cover and shit. And I was just like watching that, and they're all in like tattered clothes and stuff. And at the time, the television version of Beauty and the Beast was on.
Yeah.
And I was like, they're cool, like the Beast of Beauty and the Beast.
The Ron Perlman. Yeah.
Like,
live action.
Yeah.
Not the animated movie.
And I'm like, it's like a whole show about the beasts.
Well,
and I wanted to go see it so badly, and then someone told me it was like a musical about
it's based on
Jellicle
who is it?
Cats.
Edward Gorey, T.S. Eliot, someone. Yeah, it's all very literary based. Well, yeah. So I was from a small town, and you were from an even smaller town.
Sure.
We didn't have things like stray cats. Well, I mean, like we did, but not like colonies like
You're talking
this.
about free roaming cats, not the Stray Cats with Brian Setzer.
Okay, that was
because you definitely had.
You're trying way too hard. Yeah, we did not have colonies of cats that just like lived in the back alleys, and we didn't have fire escapes and
we had like neighborhood stray cats, but it wasn't like a whole population.
So it's very like the whole New Yorkness of cats really seemed very cool to me, but now I'm just like I don't know.
Yeah.
We did also, it didn't help. We had to sing. My music teacher, I think, was very into Cats, and we had to sing several of the songs from that in music class, like Memory. And let me tell you, 8-year-olds do not have the vocal range for Memory.
Yeah, I bet.
Or there was one called McCavity the Cat. I don't know. We didn't.
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, back to Impromptu.
That impromptu discussion we just went on is ending.
Wow. That was so good.
It's a comedy podcast.
Look at what
now,
you
folks.
did. That was great. Yeah. So, Dave, I usually say, what did you know about this movie before we watched it? I'm going to guess the answer is not a thing.
No. I don't even know. Not only do I not know anything about this movie, I don't know anything about the ripped from the headlines based on a true story aspect of this movie. Like, I know the names. Like, I obviously know Chopin, but I know, like, I've heard that pairing of names together before, that kind of thing. But I didn't know anything about the movie or the subject matter.
Nor I,
and
really.
I feel like I still don't.
No, well, and who knows how true to life this is. I suspect that, like, the facts are all these people were at this countess's house for 2 weeks at one point. And there's rumors that these people slept together and this person and that person, and that's it. And then it was just, extrapolate from
well,
there.
You assume like some of that is probably within, or just saying Sans. George.
Yeah.
George's books, right? Because they were largely autobiographical.
Well, that's what I mean. Somebody wrote letters saying, oh, we were at so-and-so's house and so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
and,
there's stuff in the book that is like sort of the focus of the reveal of like the third act or whatever that seems to indicate that some of what would have happened there would have been literally written about in a published book. So I'm saying like not just, it's court gossip.
Yeah.
It's just like, it seemed like George was the sort of writer because every male character that she interacts with, it seems to be a character in her, an ex and a character. And even the one played by,
Mandy.
Is like very specifically references his use as character fodder for her book.
I'm embarrassed to say that did not. So what happened? So short version, Bernadette Peters' character Marie, for whatever reason, does not want George and Chopin to get together. And so George has written a love letter and asks Marie, who she thinks is her bestie, to give the letter to Chopin. And Marie slices off George's signature and puts on her own and is like, hey, I wrote you a letter. And Chopin is grossed out because Marie is shacking up with Franz Liszt, his buddy. And so as far as George thinks, Chopin got the letter and is not interested. And Marie is like, ha, 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 he's not interested in you. Maybe not me, but definitely not you. And then like a year later, someone clues Chopin in to the fact that the letter from Marie was actually written by George and sent by George, but George doesn't know this. And so he goes out and gets George's latest book, and one of the lines from the letter is in there. And it did not occur to me that she was writing the story of, and so I gave him this letter that said blah, 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 blah. I thought it was just she used the same phrase.
Whether or not that's 100% what happened, I can't say for sure either. But like, there are two pieces of fiction that we see George working on. There's that book and a memoir. One might presume within the context of either of those, the details of this 2-week or whatever excursion to this Duchess's, manor might be contained. So I was only trying to point out, it isn't, this probably, if we really wanted to dig, this probably isn't just a he said, she said from letters that are no longer available. It's probably a he said, she said from one person's perspective in a book that was actually published somewhere.
Maybe. Yeah. Well, and George is writing a multi-installment memoir during this whole thing, which is really kind of ballsy to write a memoir when you're not done producing your fiction, your novels. Sometimes I'm like, you are too young. Stop. You are not ready. I don't care about your memoir when you're 22.
Chapter. You get you start out and then you get
and just keep it.
Yeah, you get you get you write the volume 1. Like I think if you're under 40 and you're writing a memoir, you have to call it like volume 1 or the first half or something. Like,
that's
you gotta
worse.
Reference...
That's worse. No, I don't want to read volume 1 because that implies you think you're going to do cool enough stuff later for there to be a volume 2, and then you're just setting yourself up for disappointment.
This is why you're not an artist.
Because I don't have the nerve.
You don't have the nerve to say like, hey, you call somebody has made a movie, I'm sure, and called it Part 1.
Yeah.
Oh, History of the World Part 1.
Right.
That was a joke, though, obviously, but
yes.
Yeah, like someone has made a movie and called it Part 1. And plenty of people make movies and like, this is Part 1 of a trilogy, and then you never see the rest of the. You be like Universal with their Dark Universe trilogy and Tom Cruise's The Mummy movie, and do a photo shoot for Entertainment Weekly where you have all of the actors that are going to play the characters in a photo shoot, and then only one of those like 8 movies ever gets made. Be that confident.
No, I like Babe Ruth. I'm not going to call a shot. I'm not going to do any of that. I have an inferiority complex like times 10, so that's not going to happen. I will not be writing my memoirs until I do something fantastic. And anytime I do, I'll be like, that wasn't fantastic. That's not worthy of a memoir. And what?
I thought you were going to say, I will not be writing my memoirs until I'm dead.
That too.
Yeah.
That too.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so this is based on there's a factual skeleton and then some stuff put on it.
Many of these people existed.
Yeah.
Perhaps all of them.
I think they all did. They just
some of these events may have happened.
Perhaps
all or none of them.
Well, I hope that one that didn't happen is the part where the Countess, I think she's a Countess, who invites these artists all to her house for, 2 weeks. And I guess it's, get out of the city and go to the country. Yeah. I don't know. She's kind of silly. I think she desperately wants to be accepted by these artists, but she tries too hard. And so she's not at all. But she thinks that Eugene Delacroix, that's a fun name to say, is kind of swoony, and he seems to think this about her too, or he's like, oh, she's right for the picking. Because her husband is old and doesn't take her seriously. And so she's going back to her bedroom one night walking through the halls in her nightgown, which seemed very scandalous for the time. And he grabs her and pulls her into his room, and she keeps going, "You can't, you can't, you can't," and then she gives in, and they do it.
Yes.
Which watching
off screen in PBS tradition.
Yes, there's no boobs in this. No. But watching this now, I was like, ew, that's not okay. You could have asked before you started. Like, I'm pretty sure she would have been okay with it. You just have to. You can't assault somebody and then.
I don't know. That didn't.
As these things go, it's not the worst, but it's not the best either.
Also, she didn't really protest.
He grabbed her and she started saying, "You can't, you can't, you can't." Like, that's.
I don't even remember 3 times of that.
Well,
but yeah, I get consent and all of that stuff, but
let's put 2024 mores onto something in the 1830s. That won't be weird at all, particularly since this whole movie is about gender bending. That's
sure. Naturally.
Yeah. Speaking of, yes, did you know that George Sand dressed as a man?
Yeah.
And used a male name. But everybody was very clear that she was a woman.
Yeah.
Which I think is interesting because there are a lot of people around this time and later. A lot of, I think, women, cis women, we would say now, who wanted to be a doctor or a lawyer. And so they masqueraded as men and nobody ever knew until they were dead. But this was not that.
Yeah.
And the way that this is shown is kind of interesting. Even, upper crust society is fascinated by her. She's not a freak. I guess because she was born a baroness. So she's got that aristocracy working for her.
Yeah.
And so she's got some money. And she's an artist. So she has that going for her. If she were just a regular peasant, I don't think she would get this level of respect at all.
Well, I think if she were a regular peasant, she would be doing it in secret.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be, she wouldn't be able to be out about it.
Mm-hmm.
She would be 100% living as a man, forever fearful of anyone finding out the truth.
Yeah.
But because of her position, I think she is a novelty of the social circles, and everyone wants her at their party. Because it's the lady who wears trousers.
You're like, aren't we wicked?
Yeah,
we have George Sand here.
Ooh.
Yeah. Well, and it's because she's not trans,
right?
Because she seems to wear a dress when it suits her, when it's convenient, when it helps her make a point.
Yes, often. Yeah, she is a sort of shows mastership over the sort of social structure that she lives within, knowing when to put on a dress and play up her femininity.
Yeah,
and when to not, when she can afford not to.
Yeah, although, and I don't know if this is just how Judy Davis looks or is it costuming or both, but she doesn't look super comfortable with the hyper femininity.
Yeah, I think that's intentional.
Bernadette Peters has, of course, this lovely, lush curly hair and lovely cleavage, and of course she's nursing a baby, 3 different babies through the whole movie. So the boobs are right there. You don't see them, but she's always, nursing, and the cleavage is right there. And Judy Davis has none of that. And she her hair is done in the style, but it looks sort of like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I'm just they said to braid it like this, so I'm going to do that and hope it's okay. And she looks less comfortable in this, performance wear than the other women do, which, like I said, could be just her, could be the costuming, probably both.
Could be acting.
Yes. Thank you. That too. But the interesting thing is, so you've got her, who's dressing as man and has what you might call masculine characteristics. She's assertive. She goes for what she wants, in this case being Chopin. And then Chopin, on the other hand, is chronically ill. I think we would diagnose him with tuberculosis. He's always coughing.
Yeah.
And it's one of those where he's always ill, and so he goes out of his way to watch his health, and that makes him more delicate, and it snowballs a little bit. He's always like, "Oh, can we get out of the air?" And I'm like what air exactly? What's is fresh air? I think of as good, but for him it was not good. And he's not outside, and he's not very strong, and he's pale, and he's a little bit prissy, and and so they very clearly are have elements of the opposite gender in their personality, which at the time was, or at in the 90s when this was made, it was just like, oh, haha, they're so opposite, haha. But now, through viewing it through a lens where we consider trans people, it's an interesting juxtaposition. I don't think neither of them was trans. It's just an interesting take.
It is, but it's also, that's the overt text of it. Mm-hmm. Like, George is literally told to pursue him like a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he, and
by someone who does not wish them well.
Yes, yes, but that's what ends up kind of happening, and it ends up working, because even forgetting about the because she gives that advice. She what's the character's name? Marie gives that advice. George starts doing that, and it starts working. At which point Marie has to say, oh, actually, did you know that they made a bet that she could swoon you? Mm-hmm. Like, she sees that, oh, like, crap, I was trying to mislead her.
Yeah.
But he's kind of, because he, like, right at the moment that he's like, she's everywhere I go, and
she's kind of fascinating.
Kind of fascinating. She's like, you know that she was in a bar, and they made a bet with her former lover that she could seduce you. She stands to make money. She always needs money. Yeah, it was like,
you're just a notch on her bedpost.
Yeah, I do think that this, like, the character of George is very interesting, because you see at least a couple of the men that are her exes, mm-hmm. and one of which is very obsessed with male bravado and is always wanting to duel people, and
he's like a live action Gaston from Beauty and the Beast, down to the hair, and it's just, and he's always throwing things against the wall, and
breaking things.
Yeah, it's great.
And the other one that's played by Mandy Patinkin is sort of a roguish, also writer, playwright, writer, always drunk, So, but it's interesting that it's shown that George has this universal appeal, mm-hmm. and I think at that time that's a very interesting thing to explore. That, like, all of these men who are surrounded by quote unquote proper women, mm-hmm. all find themselves falling for the one woman that isn't super proper.
Yeah.
Even though, like, that was a bit of a freer time where it wasn't that the roles of, it wasn't like ancient Greece, mm-hmm. like, go for whatever you can go with, but it was a much freer time. Like, you see people interacting in a way,
like everyone's greeting with kisses.
Kisses.
Yeah.
There's some instances where a couple of the male characters, the painter and the other composer, mm-hmm. are just sort of lounging on one another's legs, and there's a sort of a,
I like that scene.
So it's just like this very much sort of, no one is super concerned with these, like,
with matching the binary.
I don't want to look gay, or nothing. So I'm not going to kiss my male friend on the cheek to greet him, So it's very interesting, because they're surrounded by all this proper stuff, but the society underneath, and granted these are artists, but mm-hmm. is not as obsessed with all these gender roles, or it doesn't seem to be as it's portrayed in the movie. I can't mm-hmm. speak for the actual history. And that's interesting. But then to see the only people who don't seem to have had a thing with George are mm-hmm. the two guys, the Julian Sands character and there's some didn't they with that. But, those two guys who are kind of on the less masculine side are the only two that didn't seem to be, like, completely entranced by George or caught up in her web. At least.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you say less masculine, because Julian Sands, I think, is incredibly masculine. And
sure.
And of course I'm thinking of elder Julian Sands, but
you're thinking of the Warlock.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The Warlock.
But he does, so before this he had done A Room with View, where he was a very, like, sort of dreamy, romantic British guy. So he does have that vibe going for him. But he's with Marie. She's left her husband to be with him, and they never married, and he seems to not really be into the relationship anymore, but what can you do? He's got 3 kids with her. And she is like, "Oh, I was so attracted to you. I threw it all away for you. I wanted to be with you. I wanted da, da, da." And so she seems very hyper feminine. So I think of him as hyper masculine in relation.
Mm-hmm.
I guess maybe he isn't, but just the presentation.
But I think in action he isn't. Like as a juxtaposition to her, he may be.
He doesn't challenge anybody to a duel, so,
right? Yeah,
and he doesn't get roaring drunk and all that stuff. But yeah, the scene where those two they went and had a picnic out in the woods, and they're smoking hookah, and they're drinking, and they're doing all this stuff, and they're all just sort of lounging on each other. And I love that in older movies when they show that affection between the sexes, or you see old photographs of groups of girls just sort of lounging together, and just being very physically affectionate, like hugs and kisses and lounging and, and this and that. And you see it with men too. And I think at the time, because our concept of love was different and what marriage was for was different, like marriage was more of an economic, alliance.
Sure.
And it wasn't necessarily for love, and like you'd have sex, but it wasn't
for love, but also
shifting.
I would argue that was a time where love was put on such a pedestal beyond, this is when the great poets that wrote about love lived, and that, the what's the line that she uses at the inn about eternal, it's not eternal darkness, is it? Something about,
I don't remember.
Anyway, there's a line that George uses at the inn when they're kind of come to this understanding about the fact that basically Chopin is like afraid to have sex or something, to be physically affectionate.
I think it's he has the speech then about he's kind of like afraid that his body is too frail, but also I think he doesn't want to just have a one night stand. He doesn't want to be a notch on somebody's.
Sure.
Is the notch on the belt or on the bedpost? I don't know. Either way, he doesn't want to be one.
But
he doesn't want to just fuck.
But he explicitly communicates that he has divorced himself from his physical body and lives this sort of ephemeral existence in his music, and that if he comes back to his body to enjoy physical pleasure, that he may lose that inspiration. That essentially his body betrays him at every turn, and so he has divorced himself from taking any pleasure in his physical form and gets it all from another place. And to connect with somebody else on a physical level would mean to come back to that failing body, so it's a very it's an interesting take that he has in that moment. And anyway, in that exchange, George has a line about love, but this was the time when people wrote about love in these big ways. And I think that this is the root of where everybody now thinks they have to be in love when they're married. But it came about at a time when most people who were married were not in love, and they were doing it, like you said, for purely economic beneficial reasons. Yeah,
which is not necessarily bad in the context of the time. It's just very different than we think of it now.
Yes, and I think that the root of the way we think about love is in this time in which, ironically, most people who were married were not in love.
Yeah. Well, but then, so I think when you shift to you are in love with your spouse, then you have less, time, energy. Love is not a finite resource, but to have that love for your friends, for your same-sex friends.
Perhaps.
So there isn't this, it isn't acceptable to show affection like that for your friends. And so we've lost something. A lot of marriages are happier because they're built on love and friendship and affection, but we don't have that with our friends quite as much, which makes me a little sad.
Yeah, sure.
So
also, like, people are just mad homophobic.
Well, that too. Well, and I've also read, and then, this varies. I think different historians comment differently, but there were times when if women were being intimate, naked and intimate, or if men were, well, that's different. real sex is between a man and a woman. So that's just,
right, yeah.
And I think more, I've heard mixed reports, but I think in large part, women being sexual together was more accepted than men being sexual together.
Yes.
But if you could hide it, then,
yes. Yeah, you notice there is no prohibition on girl action in the Bible, for instance. So yeah, it was I think there was generally this difference between that. It wasn't viewed as this as such a taboo. Us speaking as two
right,
very celebrated historians.
We're
of
experts
sexual,
on queer history.
Yes, of course.
Just like I'm an expert on cats. All versions.
All versions of cats, especially the one at the Greensboro Coliseum Annex. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's this movie is more like this movie isn't very good, but it's very entertaining. And this is another one of those movies. We had this streak of movies where we would keep saying, this is an 8-part Netflix series.
Yeah.
Like this movie has distinct acts
that
are wildly different. And really, are like episodes of a show. Like you got a 3-episode arc, four episode arc that happens at the estate. You lead in with 2 episodes introducing all your characters, because there's a ton of characters in this movie.
Yeah, there really are.
You got 2 episodes where you introduce all your characters. You spend 4 episodes at the estate, then you wrap it up in another 2. And you're out the door. And you got a 8.5, 9 hour run time on the whole thing, and you get to explore all of these ideas so much more fully.
I actually would, if that were to happen, I would like more content on the music that Chopin is writing and what makes it so special. Because George falls in love with Chopin before she sees him. She just hears him playing the piano from another room,
through a door.
And she says to the hostess, "Do you pray and do you get an answer?" And nods to the music. That's God's answer. And I was like, wait, what? I don't understand.
Well, and that is the thing. Like, we can't understand that. And I think it's so difficult to explain that to people whenever that happens, right? Like somebody, like I can play for our son, all along the Watchtower, the Jimi Hendrix version, right? And I can't relay to him what it was like to hear that for the first time, especially with the context that someone who would have been at the right age at that time, knowing the Bob Dylan version, hearing that version, I'm thinking of these moments in music where it felt like things changed. The first, Black Sabbath songs, like, I don't know, like honestly for us, it's Nirvana, right? Like that's for our generation, it is, there is a Motley Crue song playing, and then the DJ comes on and goes, "This is that new stuff out of Seattle. It's grunge, they're calling it. It's wacky. Here's Nirvana with Smells Like Teen Spirit.
Put on some flannel and get your coffee."
That wasn't even, that was too early for that.
Oh, okay.
Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's so early that it's not even, that part isn't even there. Like, this is literally, here's the first, like, David Lee Roth and Van Halen. Now we're on to this Soundgarden. That's a weird name, huh? Well, check it out. It's Black Hole Sun. Like.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And then at this point, it's hard to understand how revolutionary it was. Or The Wizard of Oz was on recently, and we were explaining to our son, who's 14, hey, this movie being in color blew people's minds.
It was a big deal. Like imagine the reveal of sitting in the theater, and all of a sudden it's in color.
Yeah. It starts out in black and white, and then it's, and
it's not like that got spoiled by the trailer, because, there were trailers in front of other movies and stuff, but like, that is an amazing first time. Yeah. Like,
and even though, like, I don't forget exactly, but like the transition from black and white to color is actually very cool, because they have it. It's like, it's not a split screen, but like it looks like it's actually on one side of the door, because it follows the arc of the door. And it's very well done. And I always am a little bit like taken aback by it.
Yeah,
but I can't possibly comprehend what a wow moment it was for somebody in 1939. Yes. So same kind of thing.
It's the same kind of thing here, just in the way that I can't explain to our son what it was like to hear "Smells Like Teen Spirit" for the first time. And he can't explain to me what it was like to hear, Skibbity Toilet or whatever the hell this generation is going to look back on and go like, wow, that was the moment when music changed.
And I felt my brain rot all out my ears.
And that is an interesting thing to like to explore, right? Because what was Chopin doing
that was different?
That was so different. That was so instantaneously, and I think there's some you get into that a little bit in Amadeus, I think, because you have that these two rival composers and
there's the commentary like, oh, too many notes. Like I can understand some of that, of what that means, but with Chopin, like there's the part where he's playing a piece that is supposed to be impromptu, just improvised on the moment, and he says it's supposed to sound like, and it doesn't. It's too I'm working too hard at it, basically.
That he's using like formulaic things to get into. It's kind of like when you hear bad freestyle rapping, like when someone's working really hard to get like green at the end of the sentence because they want to say mean in the next line or whatever, I think that's what he's referring to. But as a music, savant is not, what's the word?
Of savant?
Idiot. As a just a music idiot, I don't, just like, and that's what George says. George says it's perfect, and he says like it's not. It's all of these things that it's not, And I think that is that's an interesting way to sort of relay the genius or the drive of that character to play something that sounds beautiful and lovely, and then for him to say like no, it's not. It's like when you have something that you've written and you read it to me in your special way that only you can read your own writing, and then I go, it's wonderful, and you go, oh, it's horrible, like,
It is a little bit, because you don't.
I don't. Right. I don't. I know what sounds good, but
You rarely though have any critique for me that is like, if this part isn't very good, what if you did blah blah blah? So I feel like you're just blowing sunshine at my ass.
Come in close here. Look at my eyes. Look at my eyes.
Yes.
How can I critique perfection? All right. It's not possible.
Okay, George.
You're asking me to criticize a rainbow. Like, come on.
Oh Lord.
What is it? It's perfect. It's nature's perfect.
I don't know. My professors have figured out a way to critique
it. You're writing about the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders reality television show.
I did write about that, y'all. It was that was fun. Watch that series. George Sand would not approve, but watch it anyway. I'm kind of all over the place with this because
this is one of those episodes. It's just like because recounting this would be like totally boring on any level. Like,
I don't know. Okay, so the children are awful.
Yes, the children are awful.
All of them. I think the two.
Well, I don't think the one kid starts out awful. I think he gets misled.
Well, I think he's kind of a priss pot at the beginning.
Yeah,
he's awful in that way, and then
got the Dutch boy hair, and he's got the frilly outfits,
velvet suit, and everything, and then he's taught to be awful in a different way.
This is the kid that belongs to the countess at the estate that they all go to. Yeah, and then George's two kids
who are feral, like basically
12, 13, whatever. Yeah, and are like the absolute. Like they
blow up a frog.
They blow up a frog. They load a log with black powder so that it explodes and somehow burns the hands of the hosts.
Yeah, I didn't understand that. Like they're sitting 10 feet away, facing the other direction, and then we see them in bed with bandaged hands.
The burns they have are like as if they were warming their hands by the fire when it exploded, and that's not what happened.
Anyway, it's very funny.
Yes. But those kids are that you can tell that they have just sort of been left, and like their teacher is the machismo guy
who is trying to trying to seduce, who's been sleeping with their mother,
was previously with George, and now has been shunned and is now trying to fight everyone who shows her even the slightest affection.
Yeah, so he's not doing a very good job of teaching them. Well, and it's interesting though, because like we see George with the kids, cuddling with them and reading to them, and so it's not that she doesn't care about her children, but she's not really interested in being a hands-on parent. It's interesting that because I don't know. I think you can be not super feminine as a woman and still be an excellent parent, but she is not. So that's
I mean, I think it's it's tough because we're watching a piece of fiction, but you can only get with what they show you because like there are sort of montage moments that would seem to indicate that she's a very good mother, and then she brings her kids to this two-week getaway or whatever and just sort of abandons them.
Invites herself, by the way, so she can find Chopin.
Yeah, more of the bravado of George.
Yeah.
It's and the kids are clearly there for comedy relief. Like from a writing standpoint, from a performance standpoint, like, you know, it was much simpler to just not include those kids. Really, to not even mention that she had kids. I mean, you maybe have to mention them for the, you know, the tie-in with the tutor and everything. But it would be so much easier just to not have them there. I mean, they're there for comedy relief.
True. Well, I don't know. I guess I don't know. I'm not a hyper feminine woman myself. I wouldn't say, and I try to be a good parent. I'm not always, but so I guess I'm just taking it a little bit personally that we are linking not being hyper feminine and being a bad parent. Although Marie doesn't seem to be a very good parent either. So
no. Well, and you know, and like the kids, for when we say whatever we can say about them, like they're well educated, like they know about the French Revolution and all kinds of shit. Like,
well, that was like
they're
40
reenacting
years
it,
ago.
You know,
so.
But I'm saying, like, someone took the time to teach it to them.
I suppose.
You know, they're reenacting it with their, you know, they've got the estate kid tied up.
Yeah.
You know, and they're executing the frog and
poor frog. I hope it was quick.
Yeah.
Let's see. What else? Oh, so I mentioned earlier, this relationship did not last all that long. So at the end of the movie, they're going to Mallorca, hopefully for better weather, for Chopin's lungs. But apparently they were going in winter, and it turned out to be very cold and damp. So not good planning on somebody's part. And George had to take care of him a lot and grew to resent it because George may be funny, but she doesn't seem like she would be long suffering. Like she would let you know when she was unhappy.
Well, and also it previously had stated that Tutor Man, which I don't remember his name, had similarly, or the other guy had similarly gone on a vacation or something and gotten sick, and she had to take care of him, and that was the beginning of her loss of the affection for him.
Yeah.
So like very telegraphed here.
Yes. Well, and apparently she wrote a novel that was a very thinly veiled version of this trip where this long-suffering woman is taking care of this weakling invalid.
Yeah.
And it was not a flattering portrait of Chopin, and he read it and was pissed. And they eventually, I think they were friendly for the rest of his life, which wasn't long. He only lived like another 10 years after this, but it was not the romance for the ages, so to speak.
Yeah.
So George lived to the 1870s, I think so, and probably took many, many, many more lovers because why not? Yeah. So I was thinking, Franz Liszt and Marie had 3 kids. I think it was only a total of 3 that they had together. But I was thinking, George is sleeping with all these men. How did she only have the 2 children? The 2 apparently were from her marriage.
Yeah.
Which at this point I think she's actually divorced. Legally divorced, not just separated. How does she keep from having more? How do you even do birth control?
How does a woman's bodies work? Like,
no, I mean, without...
Don't they just get pregnant from glances when they're fertile?
Are you making fun of me? Stop it.
You know how it works. You come from the masters of natural family planning.
No, they didn't have... Okay, no.
I don't know. It feels like you're an old white congressman talking about how women's bodies. How does a woman even not get pregnant? Not even modern science can answer that question.
Okay, first of all, shut up. So to know when you are fertile, you have to do things like check your cervical mucus.
Yeah.
And and I had to take my temperature every day and notice when there was a slight uptick, which was not really possible 200 years ago. Do you think Tudor guy, whose character's name is Malfi, which they always say with great emphasis on the syllables, do you think that guy is going to be like, oh, well, looks like you're fertile right now, so let's wait? No. Like
sure.
natural family planning, which is not the same as the rhythm method. Thank you. It's not calendar based. That depends on everybody having some self-restraint.
Look, we all know that a woman can only get pregnant for 6 hours a month during her cycle. So it's the chances that a woman would get pregnant are so low that
Republican state legislatures everywhere have told us this, and we know that they know a woman's body very well. They are the experts, in fact.
Very well.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, I get what you're saying. Yes, it seems unlikely. Yes. Perhaps there were other things afoot.
I'm now intrigued by what they were. I mean, you hear things about this was later, but you douche with Lysol, and which just makes me cross my legs in pain. And I guess there were early versions of condoms, and who knows? But how did she not have a bazillion pregnancies and a bunch of STDs? That Alfred was sleeping with syphilis-ridden girls other times. That was mean of me to say, probably, but it feels accurate.
It does.
So
an interesting question to, I think you found something to write about for one of your classes. Figure out how to work that into your next paper you have to write.
Well, my next class is about children's literature, so I don't think that syphilis-ridden call girls are going to come up, but
you might be surprised.
We'll see. I don't think I can work that into my thesis about AI in writing either, but
maybe
I'll use that as a phrase. Does AI catch the phrase syphilis-ridden call girls and find that there should be a hyphen in it?
Yes.
Yeah. There you go. Anyway, it's the end of the semester, folks. I've got school on the brain, and I'm talking about it a lot. So anyway, I'm sorry.
Hang on. Anyway, all right. That's a baker's dozen. So go. Let's move on.
You shut your pie hole. You are being so mean to me.
I am. I'm sorry.
You are awful.
You're beautiful and lovely. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, now I can't.
The way you started, you say anyway.
Now I can't do that. So, this was not a particularly healthy relationship in the long term, but I'm sure they enjoyed each other at the time, and I hope they inspired each other to do something. I'm not an expert in the work of either one, so who knows, but I kind of want to read this book that she wrote that was basically her complaining about having to take care of him, because that sounds like that'd be fantastic.
Suggest that to your book club.
Oh, no. But I've never actually read any of her works, and I don't know how they translate to the.
Shame on you.
I know. I'm sorry.
What kind of smart lady are you?
I was reading Little House on the Prairie for the 55th time.
Like a common syphilis-ridden call girl.
Like an 8-year-old. Yeah. Sorry.
All right. What else you got here? Anything that's worth covering? Good cast, fun cast. Yeah. Bernadette Peters. What's her name from Love Actually?
Emma Thompson. Yeah. But I gotta say,
great in a great role.
He is.
I feel like around this time, from Princess Bride forward, people were like, "Oh, we just need someone to chew scenery. Mm-hmm. Get the Spaniard from that movie."
Yeah. Well, and back to Bernadette Peters for a second. I referred to her as hyper feminine. Like I said, there's no boobs in this movie.
Yeah.
Just barely.
Yeah.
She's got magnificent cleavage.
Sure, yeah.
And she's very creamy alabaster, and everything is plump and perfect, and just she's a lovely lady.
It's nice. Yes, she is lovely. Yes.
Lovely curls.
I would agree.
Lovely cleavage. Yeah. And did you giggle at when List is kissing her and then her milk comes out?
Yes.
That resonates with me in a very different way than it did when I was 14.
I bet. Yes.
I don't have that problem anymore, thankfully. Didn't for very long. But Yes, that's what happens when you have sex, kids, is babies happen.
Babies happen.
Sorry.
Yep. Then it all goes downhill.
Right. As Franz Liszt can
attest.
Can tell us. Apparently in real life, Marie was a writer too and had some books published. I don't know if they lasted very long, if they were any good. I don't know. But they were not apparently as close friends as this movie makes it look like, or maybe they just got to the frenemy stage real quick. I don't know. I think because they both were jealous of each other's relationship. They didn't. I think the men were friends and were like, "This is fine. What's going?" And both of the women were like, "Nope. I don't like you being friends with him, and I don't like him being friends with you." And it was just messy. Proving that even masculine women can be petty bitches. I said it. You didn't. Yes, I know.
I'm just putting that down for when they come looking for dirt during my presidential campaign.
Right.
Not going to find it here.
No, not in this episode. You've never said anything.
Listen to other episodes.
You've never said anything inappropriate ever.
Other episodes. No. Yeah, not here.
Okay. Well, folks, if you would like to let me know what other inappropriate things Dave has said, so we can save it up for his political campaign, let me know. You can reach us a couple different ways. We're at by email, we're at ysmypodcast@gmail.com, and we're on Facebook, same handle. You can DM us, or you can find links to our latest episodes on our feed, whatever they call it now. We're also on YouTube. We are at YSMY Podcast. And apparently there's more people engaging there than anywhere else. So go there.
We had one comment on a video.
That's more
which
than,
is, which is, the YouTube thing is fun because I love putting music in these, and YouTube hates when you put music in these. So like Running Man from last week is restricted in some countries because I used the music from Running Man.
Okay. In some countries.
That's what it said. I don't know what countries. I didn't look in deep enough to see. I just get a little message that's like, oh, your recent video has been restricted in some countries due to copyright. This is not a copyright strike. Don't worry. Like yada yada yada.
Okay. Well, find out if it's your country. Look for it.
Hellscape of a place for content matching.
Oh.
Algorithmic content ID.
Okay. Good times.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, so we have
episodes every 2 weeks.
I was counting how many times I said anyway because you have me self-conscious now. Yeah, new episodes every other Wednesday. So 2 weeks from today, no matter when you're listening, there'll be a new episode. And next time, Dave is hosting. And what are we watching next time, Dave?
So I think next time falls on Christmas Day.
Oh.
I think. So I thought a Christmas movie.
Okay.
But we already used the Santa Claus, the movie. Santa Claus, the movie, not the Santa Claus. Santa Claus, the movie, which is without a doubt the best Christmas movie on a previous episode. So I decided that there is a movie that it is claimed to be a Christmas movie by some, and I want to see how much of a Christmas movie it is because I don't remember. I watched it when it first came out, and it is a rival to the other non-traditional Christmas movie, Die Hard.
Okay.
And I want to see if Christmas is more integral to the plot of this movie than it is to Die Hard. And so we are going to watch The Long Kiss Goodnight.
Oh.
With Gina Davis and Sam Jackson.
Wow.
And we are going to see how much of a Christmas movie it in fact is.
I didn't know there was any Christmas connection there.
It's apparently somewhat heavy. There are claims that it is more of a Christmas movie than Die Hard, and we should be the judge. Because I think Die Hard is not very much of a Christmas movie at all.
I have taken myself out of that debate entirely. I don't care. I will watch whatever movie whenever. So
yeah, I think Lethal Weapon is more of a Christmas movie than
having
Die
seen
Hard,
it. I
Die
don't.
Hard is.
But okay,
there is a fight scene with the Christmas tree.
Okay, you know what I think? If you watch it every year at Christmas, it's a Christmas movie. Little Women.
There is a shootout.
Little Women is Christmas.
There is a shootout at a Christmas tree lot. That's case closed. The defense rests.
Okay. All right. Well then,
that's for Lethal Weapon. I don't remember the Christmas content of The Long Kiss Goodnight because I watched that movie when it first came out on VHS and haven't seen it since. But I remember liking it.
Okay. Well, we'll find out. We'll find out how Christmassy it is next time.
That's right.
In the meantime, this has been You Show Me Yours. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye. The You Show Me Yours theme song is Uplifting Electronic Indie by Winnie the Moog from filmmusic.io. You all right?
We went off the rails a little bit. Several times.
Yeah.
We went way off the rails.
Quite a bit. It's fun. Those are the fun ones.
For us, maybe not for them.
So what? We're here to have fun. We're having fun. They're having fun, or they're just not listening. And if they're not listening, they're not hearing this. The secret part at the end of the episode.
I hope they're listening. I like it when they listen. Makes me feel loved.